Hi, I'm Mark Vernarelli, and welcome to Inside Harford County, a program where we sit down with our community leaders and discuss the issues important to the citizens of Harford County. It's census time. Every 10 years, the census counts every living person in the United States of America. Why is that so important that everyone participate and be counted? Well, today we're talking about that. Joining us are Melynda Velez, Harford County's Census Coordinator, Brad Killian, the Director of the Department of Planning and Zoning, and Daniel Jones, the Strategic Partnership Specialist for the U.S. Census Bureau. Thank you all for being here today. 10 years, it doesn't seem like it's been 10 years since the last one, but it's funny, we think about the census, well, this was something that just somebody came up with it in some political arena, but this is actually mandated in the United States Constitution. Daniel, is that right?
That is correct. It's mandated in the Constitution. Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution mandates that the census be taken every 10 years. The first census took place back in 1790 under the leadership of Thomas Jefferson. Ever since then, every 10 years, we do a census. And the important thing is, in the Constitution, there's two reasons why we do the census. These two reasons are actually in the Constitution. The first one is for the allocation of congressional seats. And the second one is for redistricting purposes. That's why you see that a lot of politicians are always involved and excited about the census, because they understand how important this is. So this is great, and that we're ready for the 2020 census because it is almost here.
Melynda, that's where you come in for Harford County, because you are the person who has been deemed responsible for making sure as many people as possible get counted. And of course, not everybody always does, but as Daniel just said, it's extremely important from a funding and political standpoint that everybody get counted, right?
It is. It's important, and I think it's really interesting to know that it's easy. And so things have changed since 2010. In 2010, we did the questionnaire and we submitted it, but now there's 3 different ways that you can fulfill the questionnaire. The one way is online, the second way is by phone, and then the third way is actually on the questionnaire.
So you'll actually, we see it right there on the screen, you can actually do it several different ways, so there's no excuse for not being counted. And you're given several opportunities, Daniel, for being counted, correct?
And I want to say something. You spoke about funding a few seconds ago, and I want the listeners to know that we're talking about over $675 billion that are distributed annually in federal funds based on census data. So this is very critical and important. And we're talking about funding that is used at the local level for schools, Medicaid, roads, hospitals, emergency services. I mean, any services that your community might need, recreation centers, for example, all those services, the funding for those services come from the census data. So we want the community to understand how important this is. Now, it is very easy, and again, keep in mind, when we talk about the census, a lot of times we get so excited, or like people get worried. Look, all we're doing is counting the population. It's just the count of the population. We just want to know how many people live in the United States, right? The population right now is about 330 million people live in the United States. And it's also important for people to understand, and I say this all the time, sometimes we think of the census as being a population count. I actually like to see it as a household count, because you're not going to get an invitation personally for you, your household will get that invitation. So it is important that when that invitation comes to your household, you include everyone who lives in that household, right? Otherwise, they won't have a way of getting or seeing that invitation. This is critical and important. Now, I always say that more than ever before, we have made this super easy. As Melynda, the head of the Complete Count Committee here in the county, said, we made this very, very easy to do. People have 3 ways of completing the census form. This is so easy. Number 1, you can do it online, if that's what you like to do, right? And but let's say you don't want to do it online, right? If you don't want to do it online, you can do it over the phone. You'll have a phone number you can call and complete the census form. The census form is available in 13 languages, including English. And when you receive that invitation, there will be a phone number there that you can call. Now, we have a phone number for each language, right? So you will talk to a live person, not a machine, not press this button. You'll talk to someone so that you can provide the answers over the phone. And then let's say you don't want to do it online, you don't want to do it over the phone. What other options do you have? Guess what? You can do it the old-fashioned way. You can use paper. We are going to send you a paper questionnaire with the 4th mailing. Now, everyone will get 2 invitations to do the census online. Then we're going to send out a third invitation that will go to everyone. Oh, I'm sorry, it will go only to those individuals that up to this point have not completed the census form. After that, there's a fourth letter that go out. Now with that fourth letter, you'll have a paper form that comes with it, just in case you haven't done it yet. And then after that, you get a fifth invitation or reminder asking you, please, pretty please, go online and complete the census form, right? Now, that is your last chance for you to go online and complete the census form. Because if you don't do it, then beginning May 12th, we have what is called non-response follow-up. And that is when we send someone to your house to get the information. So if you don't want people to come to your house, I guess you got to go ahead and complete the census form online.
So they'll actually show up at your door and ask you to participate.
To get the data, get the information. And again, we have all this choice. We want to count everyone. That is our job. Count everyone once, only once, and at the right. We are talking about only 9 questions. That's it. 9 questions, less than 10 minutes, and you're done. Very easy, very safe. I like to add here that the information that you provide to the Census Bureau are actually secure, safe and secure. We do not share your data with anyone, with any other government agency, for example. They are protected under Title 13, right? Meaning that that data for 72 years, no one can see that information. And again, it's 72 years because we expect to be dead by then. Okay, that is why it is the life expectancy back then.
It's a pretty good bet that in 72 years all of us will be dead.
No, but you know, but life expectancy now.
But you're right. It's
yeah.
not something to joke about because there are always people who are skittish about this
Exactly.
or concerned about it. But from a planning and zoning standpoint, Brad, your agency is a key player in the census, because everything you do comes down to planning for future populations and managing current populations, right?
That's true. Thanks, Mark. So the Department of Planning and Zoning here in the county and statewide is responsible for managing the census at the local level. And part of the reason we are the agency that is responsible for doing this is we use the data probably the most. The Department of Planning and Zoning locally is responsible for monitoring growth of the county, the number of people coming in, the number of people leaving, and the decennial census every 10 years. It's important to have that number. Now, the Census Bureau does provide a lot of other data that we use throughout those 10 years. So there's additional numbers that correlate to social characteristics, household characteristics, jobs, economy, and those are important because at the local level, not only do we get federal funding for federal programs, but we also need to know how many people we need to provide services for: schools, water, sewer, parks, things like that. So we were very fortunate this year. The state provided over $4 million in grant allocation to local jurisdictions and nonprofit organizations statewide. And Harford County received $133,000. And I think this is easily the most robust effort that we've had at the county level.
Something as simple as deciding whether Havre de Grace or North County or Joppatown needs a new elementary school. You don't know that unless you know what to plan for in terms of number of young children younger than elementary school age right now.
Right, and we do that every 6 months, actually. We're monitoring that. So it's important to have that base and that foundation so that we can see what the trends are, see where areas are growing, see where they're not, and to see, like you said, what the local population is doing.
Melynda, the marketing effort, if we can call it that, has to be extraordinary to try to get the word out, because census is not something coming around every 10 years that people are going to think about. What are you doing in Harford County to get the word out?
So we've done a lot. We've worked on a billboard with all of the local celebrities that we have here within our county. We have worked on articles in the Aegis and stickers for the Aegis, for the Clipper magazine and the Bargainier. We're trying to think about our hard-to-count populations, our populations that in the past haven't been counted, and what are ways that we can let them know that it's important and that it's safe and that it's really easy for them to do. If I can go back to something that Daniel talked about, we're going to get a postcard in the mail, and the date of that postcard runs between March 12th and March 16th. That's next week. And so when we first get that, it's going to have a household number on that, and that's what people can use to do their initial count. And so that's important when that white paper comes in the mail, that people realize, oh, wait a minute, this is the census form, and I should take do that. he's right. After 2 weeks, they're going to get the second notice at the end of March. We get another notice that's like, hey, don't forget we haven't done this. April 1st is Census Day. That's when you're really going to see a lot of the big marketing from the federal level, the state level, and locally. We actually joined a metropolitan coalition of different counties in order to help with marketing pieces as well. So you'll see on the TV and social media and stuff like that. Now, after people forget or don't do the census, come mid-April is when we get the questionnaire in the mail. And my thing is, let's hope we don't have to get. Let's hope that by that point we're at a great place and most people have already counted. But if not, that questionnaire will come in the mail. So then they'll get their reminder at the end of the month. There's all kinds of support that's in the communities of things set up. People can go to the local Harford County Public Library if they don't have computer access at their home, or they don't want to use their home computer for whatever reason. We've worked with the Harford County Public Library to train their staff so that they can help people if they come in, and then we will have canvassers there as well. We have supported the senior centers. We've supported activity centers. We'll have people around the communities that might need extra support. We're reaching out to the elderly to see what kind of ways we can help them, especially those who are homebound that can't get out. We're working really hard on letting people know that it's coming and that they're important and that they really truly do matter.
And speaking of people who matter, everybody matters, Daniel, but who are the hard-to-count populations? Who are the special needs populations?
Yes, that's a great question because, look, we have been doing this in 1790, the Census Bureau. I was not there in 1790, just in case anyone thinks. So, but I can tell you, and we're very good at the operational part where we're able to get every household and in between. We work with Brett and the Department of Planning in terms of they were able to go into our database and update our information to make sure that we have all the addresses counted so that we can mail that information later around March 12th, right? We're very good at taking care of those things. But every 10 years, what's happened is we have an undercount. There are specific populations and groups that we miss every 10 years. And this is why we reach out to Harford County, to the team here, to Melynda, and say, hey, we need your help. We're not able to do this by ourselves. We need the help of the community, of the leadership, so that we can ensure that everyone is counted. So we're talking about population. By the way, the highest undercount that we have every 10 years is of children under 5. Now, I am not sure what those kids are doing that their parents decide to keep them off the questionnaire, but we'll need to investigate.
That's a topic for another show, I think.
But that is the highest undercount that we have every 10 years, right? Then, of course, we're talking about immigrant individuals. We're talking about people with limited English proficiency. We're talking about college students, which is they are highly mobile, right? We're talking about homeless individuals. Those populations, right, are very difficult to count. But there's one factor, one key that actually brings those populations together, and one factor that determines if you're going to complete the census form or not. If you are a low-income individual, poor individual, right, and if you're poor and you also live in an apartment, those are two indicators that say to us that those individuals usually do not complete the census. And we understand why, right? Those individuals have other things to worry about. They don't have disposable income. You know, they just don't have the resources maybe to take the time and sit down. They're working 2 or 3 jobs. So this is why we develop a campaign at the Census Bureau, right, targeting those individuals. This is why the Complete Count Committee over here will work to target those individuals to ensure that they are counted because they matter. And a lot of times, I got to tell you, sometimes we talk a lot about fear, right? People say the reason why people don't want to do the census is because they're afraid, they're scared. Well, what we do at the Census Bureau, we do a lot of surveys and research. And what we found out is that actually fear is not the primary factor why people don't do it. It is actually the lack of information. The fact that they do not understand or do not know the benefit of completing the census. Once they understand what the census is and how important it is, those individuals actually, excitedly, will complete the census form. So our challenges are those hard to count populations, right? And I also usually say that, you know, more than race or nationality, it's mostly, you know, low-income individuals that presents a challenge. And this is those, you know, again, also individuals who live in rural areas, because people who live in rural areas do not like government very much. They don't want government intervening in their daily lives or their businesses. So those individuals also presents a challenge to us, right? And let me say something, because as you know, we talked about this earlier, the census, we're going to do it online for the first time, right? And one of the things that I always say is that it's challenging for the first time we're doing it online, but also this is a census that for the first time we're doing a census where social media will play such a major role. And we are obviously, we understand that there's going to be misinformation, right? And this is why it's so critical, the complete count committee, the work that they do at the local level, because there are going to be messages out there telling individuals in this community not to complete the census form, right? So the county have to have a plan to make sure they counted those messages. But at the national level, the Census Bureau has a team of people ready to counter those negative messages and send out press releases to inform our communities, our partners, of what is true and what is not. But in places where we have rural areas, because we're doing this online, right? And people ask, well, what's going to happen for those individuals that do not have good internet connectivity? What about if they cannot go online and do this? Well, what we're doing is we have been able to identify those areas. And for those areas that do not have broadband internet connectivity, we're actually going to mail them a questionnaire with the first mailing. So they'll receive a questionnaire from the get-go, right? And also, what we've done is for census tracts that have it where 20% or more of the population speak Spanish, we are going to send them a Spanish language questionnaire with the first mailing, so they will not have to wait. I gotta tell you, we looked at everything. We want to count everyone. We're excited. I gotta tell you, there's great excitement everywhere. The county is doing an amazing job. The complete count committee, Melynda and her team doing a great job here. We're excited about that. And we're gonna have an awesome census here in 2020. This is going to be great.
I hope you're right. Everyone counts. That's what they say. And Brad, as far as the money thing goes, if I read it correctly, for every person who's not counted, Harford County loses quite a bit of money. And that's why I guess the onus falls on you guys to make sure, to the extent that you can, that people do get, because those schools and other services depend on everybody being counted, or we lose potentially millions of dollars, right?
That's true. Actually, I think the onus falls on the individuals who receive, and hopefully they'll be able to respond. Our responsibility is to try to encourage as many of those folks to respond as possible. In the last census, Daniel can correct me, we were in the 82% range on the first card, and that seems to be a ceiling that we've had for the past several decades. So 82% isn't terrible, but that 18% that we're not counting, that can represent tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars, certainly over the course of the next years, that we're not receiving directly to this county in funds that affect things like recreation, transportation, education, housing, and these are all very important to almost every person in the county. So that's why we are, like I said, doubling down and trying to really make sure that this year our effort is extra robust.
Yeah, Melynda, if I read it correctly, I believe it's something like $1,800 per person in federal funds, and you multiply that, like Brad said, by the 18%, thousands of people, that's a lot of money potentially lost.
Well, and our concern is that 10% was 2010. We're definitely going to be better this year. But if 20% of the people sit and don't do it, that's $93 million the county would lose a year. And so it's really important that everybody takes the time to stop.
What's been the biggest challenge for you in this role? Because I know you have, as they say, a day job too, in addition to this. And when this was assigned to you, I'm sure you had a little bit of trepidation about it. What has been borne out in this experience for you in terms of difficulty? Anything particularly difficult?
To be honest with you, this has really been an educational experience. I've had the opportunity to work with communities all throughout the county. I think one of the great things about our county is we are so diverse. You go from the Joppa area to the Whiteford area to even the Darlington area, and you have these groups of individuals that truly care about the welfare of our residents. And so being able to educate them about the importance of the census, the impact of those 700 people that weren't counted in 2010, and how that's impacting us, the conversations that have been around the table, and just be able to see the movement that happens after they're educated, I think has really been empowering for me, who works with the community all the time. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity and the trust that the county has given not only me, but the entire Complete Count Committee, who's worked really hard to meet the expectations and the goals of making sure people understand why it's important, and that really, truly, it's easy now. It's really easy. I mean, I think that, and it's safe. And so I think that's really what it's been. Time is what, surprisingly, is now what we're working against, because March 12th is next week.
And I am extremely happy that you talked about you say that it's easy to do, right? Because it actually is very easy to do. And I tell people a lot of times, because we're doing it online, people get a little worked out, like, oh my God, it's online. No, look, the same internet, I mean, we're not reinventing the internet. The Census Bureau is not, okay? The same internet that you use to do your shopping online or to do your search online or use those things online, it's the same internet that you're going to use to complete your census. It is very simple. You just go up, go there, you choose the language that you want, and just do it. It is extremely simple. It's exciting to do, and we hope that people, like the family, gets together, the little family thing, bring the kids and everyone, and complete your census form, and then you tell your neighbors about this, because it is, again, here's the thing. You get to do this just once every 10 years. That is it. Meaning we're going to take 10 minutes of your time, and for another 9.5 years, we're not going to bother you again, right? So if you can get everybody together, get excited about it, and get it done, that will be amazing. And I want to tell everyone that at the Census Bureau, we want to count so bad. That is our only job, I think, right? To count people. We just want to get it right, honestly. But it's one thing, because in those efforts, the efforts that we're doing, right? Not only you talked about media and the county having a media initiative, the Census Bureau is spending over $500 million, right? Advertising, marketing advertising. We began back in February with a hard to count population first, and then a couple of weeks after February 5th, we began what we call the general population marketing and outreach, right? Advertising. We've done that. But another thing that we're doing that is new is that we're going to have what we call mobile questionnaire assistance center, right? These are locations where people actually go and get help completing the census form if they need the help, right? The county have the libraries and those places, but besides those efforts, the Census Bureau will have mobile questionnaire assistance center. And with staff with census individuals that will have an iPad and will actually help you complete the census, because we want to count everyone in this county, in Harford County. Now, this is important because our role as the census is so critical to this community and to the entire nation, right? When we take this picture of the United States of America, we want to make sure that everyone understands we don't want you to not be. But it's another point that we got to make here. At the end of the day, right, we'll send you an invitation. I think Bray alluded to this earlier. We'll send you that invitation. But what we need help with and what the county is doing is how do we get people to go from getting an invitation to actually completing the form, right? We're very good at sending letters out, but we're not very good at getting people to complete the census form, especially hard to count population. And those are the things that we need. We want people to get excited. We want to make sure that you include everyone in your household. Everyone. Now, if you consider your cat as being human, I'm not sure you
have to draw the line with the animals.
We're going to draw the line with the animals. Other than that, everyone that lives in your household.
Babies and all.
Babies and all. As long as your baby is born, if you're pregnant, your baby is born by April 1st, include that baby there. Yeah. Otherwise, we'll include that baby for the 2030 census. There you go. Right?
Brad, as far as the zoning decisions, sometimes you catch heat for have controversial zoning decisions. Those are based in part on census data. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that comes out of the census data that planning and zoning deals with, I'm sure.
That's true. Again, the planning departments statewide, typically at the local level, are trying to monitor where growth is happening and how those changes are affecting the local community. But I do want to say, too, because I think we've missed an important point here. The filling out the form is easy, and I think Daniel's being too modest in saying how easy it is. But I think what anybody who may be watching and recalling what the forms have been like in 2010 and 2000, this is the first year that there is no long form. So there is only a single form, and it is very simple. It asks very primary, basic information about you who are filling out the form and everybody else in the household. So there is not a Form A and Form B. There is one single form, and it is the most basic, simplest of information. So there is virtually no reason to not take 10 minutes to fill it.
Yeah, it sounds like, Melynda, it couldn't really be any easier to do than they've made it.
Right, so it's simple questions, and so go with me, but it's the primary person's name, it's their birth date, it's their age. It asks if they are Latino, Hispanic, or Spanish. It asks them what their race is. It asks if the house that they live in is rented or mortgaged. And then
the sex, male, female, and your phone number.
Yep.
And the reason for the phone number, we usually do, I'm not going to call you. One thing that is important for people to know, that we do not ask for your social security number. We do not ask for your political affiliation, and we do not ask for money. Okay, we're not your bank account, none of that stuff. If anybody's asking for that stuff, please know that's not the Census Bureau. And also, we will not actually email you anything. Okay, we don't do that either. So if you get an email, here's your census form via email. Please do not respond to that, but forward that to the Census Bureau so we can follow up on that and ensure that we stop that. Okay, so and those are the reason why we ask for the phone number is that, you know, in case you skip a question. Now, if you skip a question, you can still hit submit. We'll take the form, right? Anyway, but sometimes maybe you forgot to complete that question, so we might call you. That's when we will do it. We might call you and say, hey, you forgot to complete the question. Would you like to answer that question? That's the reason why we ask for the phone number. But generally, we do not call you, and that your name, your data, your information, all that information we never share with anyone. And this is important for people to know. What we share, and I want to say this so everyone understands, is aggregated data. We give numbers. That's the only thing. Your name, your phone number, your date of birth, your address, your race and ethnicity, those things are not made public to the community, or other government agencies, or anybody else. Whenever we put out information, it's just general information. Understand that for 72 years, no one will have access to your personal data, to your micro data. It's important for the community to know that they can trust the work the Census is doing, because we care about you. All we want to do is count the population.
Everyone counts.
Everyone counts.
Daniel, Melynda, Bradley, thank you very much. Very interesting discussion. We really appreciate you being here today, so make sure you fill out those forms and get. Thanks for watching Inside Harford County, airing exclusively on the Harford Cable Network. This program will air throughout the month of March and April on Mondays at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and Thursdays at 7 in the evening. Please join us again for another issue important to Harford County. I'm Mark Vernarelli. Thanks for watching.